It's the Michael Patrick Leahy Show, broadcasting live from downtown Nashville. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
Good morning to the John Fredericks Radio Network. We are indeed broadcasting live from our studios in downtown Nashville. Those of you listening on the John Fredericks Radio Network, boy, you got a tour de force from Congresswoman Sparks from Indiana. That was very well done. Here now today, we have a morning rundown that is brought to you by the Glock Store. The Glock Store located just about a half a mile from the airport here in Nashville, Tennessee. Glockstore.com. It's the leading provider of Glock accessories in the country. So here we go. Here's a morning rundown for Wednesday, December 18th, 2024. Number one, Speaker of the House Mike Johnson just dropped late last night a 1,500-page budget continuing resolution. It's filled with pork, and Congress has to vote on it by Friday to avoid a, quote, government shutdown. It stretches the funding for the government until March. We're going to hear from Speaker Johnson. He's been criticized by Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. We're going to hear from him right after this. Number two, Donald Trump. I love this story. Donald Trump has sued the Des Moines Register, Gannett, which owns the Des Moines Register, and pollster Ann Seltzer for their phony poll. You know, the one that came out the day before the election that showed Kamala Harris with a 3-point lead in Iowa. What was the problem with that poll? She lost Iowa by 13 points, a 16-point differential. I think the lawsuit's under consumer fraud. We'll talk about that in a bit. Number three is Tren de Aragua, the Venezuelan criminal gang, and our other South American gangs now becoming bolder in the United States of America. Some local law enforcement, particularly here in Tennessee, are saying, we don't see him. Meanwhile, there does seem to be a huge uptick in burglaries in high net worth neighborhoods here in Tennessee and around the country. Number four, no new info from the Biden administration on the drone situation other than, nothing to look at. Nothing here. I don't think so. And number five, good news. Yesterday, the Electoral College convened in 50 state capitals on yesterday. And Donald Trump got, I think, 312 of the 312 Electoral College votes he won on Election Day. Mercifully, no drama this time, and we are just happy about that. And of course, the January 6th of this year, Congress will convene to confirm those votes, and January 20th, Donald Trump will be inaugurated as the 47th president of the United States. So there you go. There's a morning rundown for Wednesday, December 18th, 2024. You know, the morning rundown is brought to you by the Glock Store, Glockstore.com, right here in Nashville. I heard from my good friend Lenny McGill. He's the founder and CEO of the Glock Store. He said their Black Friday deal days were a huge success, including an uptick in sales from cities that get the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. So thank you, listeners in Pittsburgh and Philadelphia and Atlanta and all across Virginia and all across here in Tennessee and across West Virginia. Thank you. And for the Glock guys and gals who haven't had the opportunity to visit Glockstore.com, you really should, and here's why. Not only do they always have every Glock in stock, they only stock the very best parts and accessories, including hard-to-find Glock factory parts, like the Glock Performance Trigger. And they know they're the best because they personally test each and every one. And if Lenny McGill doesn't like it, it doesn't get on the Glockstore.com website, period. And if he really likes a product, he features that product on his incredible YouTube channel. The channel has been around for a long time, over 500,000 subscribers, nearly 1,000, count them, 1,000 videos, and a 99% thumbs up rating. Now, if you haven't seen this yet, if you're not a fan, go to youtube.com/@ the @ Glock Store, and you soon will be. That's youtube.com/@ Glock Store. And go there. And don't forget to go to theglockstore.com, sign up for their weekly sales letters. You'll even get a link to the latest Lenny McGill video every Wednesday afternoon. I'm very proud that Lenny McGill is a friend and sponsor. Visit glockstore.com today. You'll be glad you did, and so will I, because we like our sponsors to have a lot of our listeners go and buy stuff. All right, there we go. Okay, so let's go to this continuing resolution. Think about this, 1,500 pages. They supposedly, it dropped late last night. It's filled with pork from Democrats, and it's going to keep the government running until March. This is not what they call a clean resolution. A clean resolution doesn't add any of this new pork. So Elon Musk, Vivek Ramaswamy from the DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency, hate this thing. But this morning, Mike Johnson was on, I think, Fox and Friends to defend it. Here we go. Clip 21. Listen to this squirming of Speaker Mike Johnson.
We don't have a choice. We have to fund those. We have to fund FEMA. We have to fund our farmers.
Right. And Mr. Speaker, it's not just, so you've got a bunch of Republicans who are angry at you. They don't like this. And just in a couple of weeks, you're going to stand once again to run for Speaker of the House. And you don't need a bunch of Democrats mad at you. But you know, and this is breaking news you do not know. You know who also does not like this? Elon Musk, the world's richest man, just tweeted, this bill should not pass. The only way you're going to be able to pass it now, Mr. Speaker, is with Democrats. If you could, what's your message to Elon Musk?
Well, I was communicating with Elon last night. Elon and Vivek and I are on a text chain together. And I was explaining to them the background of this. And Vivek and I talked last night about almost midnight. And he said, look, I get it. He said, we understand you're in an impossible position. Everybody knows that. Remember, guys, we still have just a razor-thin margin of Republicans. So any bill has to have Democrat votes. They understand the situation. They said, it's not directed to you, Mr. Speaker, but we don't like the spending. I said, guess what, fellas? I don't either. We got to get this done because here's the key. By doing this, we are clearing the decks, and we are setting up for Trump to come in roaring back with the America First agenda. That's what we're going to run with gusto beginning January 3rd when we start the new Congress, when Republicans, again, are in control. And all of our fiscal conservative friends, I'm one of them, will be able to finally do the things that we've been wanting to do for the last couple of years. Right now, Democrats still control the pens, and that's the problem. So we got to get this thing done so we don't have the shutdown, so we get the short-term funding measure, and we get to March where we can put our fingerprints on the spending. That's when the big changes start, and we can't wait to get there.
Right.
Okay, so I'm not buying that. I mean, come on. Look, he said the same thing in September. He said in September, he said, oh, well, when we get to Christmas, I won't be doing a big pork CR. He's doing a big pork CR. See, a clean CR basically says just keep spending as we did previously. But this thing is loaded with all sorts of extra spending. He's cut a deal with the Democrats. And look, this whole business of government shutdown, it doesn't really shut down. It just basically cuts down to about 70% spending. And I think it's, look, if I were a member of the House of Representatives, which I don't think I'd ever want to be, because it's a miserable job, in my view, I would vote no on this. But the rubber will meet the road in March when this continuing resolution is over. And that's when Johnson is going to have to cut. Will he? I'm skeptical. Hey, when we come back, Phil Klein, great legal scholar, will join us. We have a question about judicial ethics. Can a Supreme Court justice sing a song on an LGBTQ Broadway show? Apparently they can. Back after this.
Hey there, this is Lenny McGill, founder and CEO of The Glock Store. As a proud sponsor of this show, you may have heard Michael Patrick Leahy mention us a few times over the past 4 years. But today, it's me on the radio telling you how pleased we are to be associated with Michael Patrick Leahy and his dedication to the highest levels of professional journalism. Michael Patrick Leahy has been threatened with jail time in bringing the true facts about that Nashville Covenant shooting to his listening audience. Michael Patrick Leahy, you keep doing what you're doing, and we here at the Glock Store will keep sponsoring your show for the good of Nashville and the entire country. And I'm personally inviting all of your listeners to come visit and shoot at the Glock Store. It's where Michael Patrick Leahy learned to shoot a gun for the first time and where he bought his own personal Glock 19. I'm Lenny McGill, founder and CEO of the Glock Store here in Nashville, just minutes from the airports, worth the drive from anywhere, and a proud sponsor of Michael Patrick Leahy and the Tennessee Star Report.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
Welcome back. We are joined on our Zoom Newsmaker line right now by one of the greatest legal scholars in the country, professor of law at Liberty University, former Attorney General for the state of Kansas, Phil Klein. Good morning, Phil.
Good morning, Michael.
Phil, I didn't know this, and I guess it's part of the legal profession, but I didn't realize that the Make-A-Wish Foundation provided Make-A-Wishes to Supreme Court Justice. Did you know that?
No, I was not aware of that, Michael.
Well, but apparently on Saturday night, they granted the Make-A-Wish of Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, who always wanted to appear in an LGBTQ-themed Broadway show. Did you see that?
I saw a story relating to that, yes.
I don't know. I mean, is that a typical behavior of Supreme Court justices?
I as it relates to what these justices do personally, I'm not that concerned about it.
So it's more it's amusing to me and bizarre. But
yeah,
so
it's a wish maybe that many would not identify with or quite understand. But what is more concerning are some of Jackson's writings as a Supreme Court justice and her opinions. Although on a couple of instances, particularly as it relates to January 6th, I saw some concerns in her writing about protecting the civil rights of the litigants and concerned about government overreach. I would certainly encourage her in that concern because she might be able to build a bridge to some of the conservative justices that protect our individual liberties from an overzealous administrative state that was administered by President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris.
Phil, most judges at the state level, at the federal level, let's just say at the federal level, I think that's a lifetime appointment. If you're a federal district judge or if you're a judge on the Court of Appeals or Supreme Court justice, that's a lifetime appointment. Is that right?
Yes.
So here's a little bit of my concern. I look at some of these decisions, some of the actions of these justices, and I say, perhaps early on some of them may have been okay, but they seem to either lose their fastball or get way off course. Let me give you a couple examples. There was this infamous deal, right? All federal judges have to be confirmed by the Senate. And so Mitch McConnell, one of his last acts as the minority leader, cut a deal with Chuck Schumer. One of his last acts as majority leader. He's about to be minority leader. But the deal was the Senate would approve certain district court judges and then some Court of Appeals judges who had indicated they intended to take senior status, meaning you'd get a full-time replacement, that the Democrats wouldn't push the nominees there and let Trump make those changes, those nominations, which sounds like a reasonable deal, except now the judges, apparently four Court of Appeal judges who have said back earlier in this year that they're going to take senior status, at least one of those four rescinded that decision after the election of Donald Trump, in essence depriving President Trump of appointing a more conservative justice. What's your reaction to something like that?
Well, Mitch McConnell made a bad deal. He negotiated with the wrong people. I mean, it's not the Chuck Schumer who determines whether to rescind senior status. It's the judge.
Yeah.
So it's like you go to buy a car from a person who doesn't own the car. It was a stupid tactic. Now the left is willing to engage in all kinds of machinations and in fact cross what used to be clear lines of political engagement that judges were prohibited from engaging in order to achieve their objectives. But really, that's not what happened here. The left played within the rules, and you've got a Republican Senate leader who made a stupid deal with the wrong people.
How often is it the case that a senior judge, a judge in the federal district court level or the appeals court level, announces they're going to take senior status and then rescinds that decision after an election where somebody from the other party gets elected? I've not seen that before. Have you?
Well, it's not happened often, but there is another tactic that is often used, and we see it with the United States Supreme Court, and that is timing your retirement from the United States Supreme Court. So, these judges and justices are acting within the law to make decisions to see if the court can be shaped in a manner consistent with their ideology. I would say that is not unusual. Again, the problem here was that the Republican leader negotiated with the wrong people.
Yeah.
He couldn't negotiate with the judges, but, he bought a pig in a poke.
Yeah. And back to that a little bit, would you agree with me that in terms of forming common law precedents, that judges in the Court of Appeals are significantly more important than federal district court judges?
Well, absolutely. I mean, your appellate court is the interpreter of the law with authority over district court judges. And then, of course, that is superseded by the United States Supreme Court. So your district court gathers evidence and makes decisions on law hopefully consistent with prior decisions by appellate courts in the United States Supreme Court. And when there's a question of whether they've committed an error in those interpretations, it goes up to the appellate court. The appellate court does not make a record. It doesn't have witnesses and so forth. So it's limited to interpreting and applying the law.
Now, are there any judicial ethic complaints or conduct complaints that can be made when a judge, a federal judge, either at the district or the appeals court level, announces their intention to take senior status and then rescinds it after the election? I've heard some people claim that they're going to do that with this Fourth Circuit judge that did just that.
I don't believe so, not unless the judge was engaged in some type of public dishonesty or received some kind of quid pro quo for the decision.
Now, we have a similar potential situation here in the Sixth Circuit. By the way, the Sixth Circuit, as you know, covers appeals in cases brought in federal court in Tennessee, Kentucky, Ohio, Michigan. An odd kind of combo of states, but that's what that Sixth Circuit is. There is a judge, an appeals court judge there, Judge Strange, who's I think 71, who in January said she was going to take senior status. There is speculation that she could rescind that. There's also a story out there that she refused to recuse herself in a case where her family has some potential benefit to it. Do you have any thoughts on where that little dramas like that might go?
Well, as I understand the facts here, and this I've not been able to confirm, this is just my understanding at this time, is that her husband and I believe her son or a daughter are members of a law firm that have initiated litigation against a company which is before her. Right. And in fact, the issues presented in the case before the appellate court directly tied to that litigation. That's concerning that she would not recuse under those circumstances. The standard includes the appearance of impropriety. And if it's true that a family member, a close family member, a child or a spouse, has a direct financial interest potentially in the outcome of a case, that judge should recuse.
Yeah, a good point. Good point. Well, Phil, what do you think the future of Trump nominees for federal court and appeals courts and possibly Supreme? What do you think it looks like right now?
Well, I'm very, very hopeful in that he has initiated some reform in his first term of district courts. Now the left is trying to bake the cake with the Biden appointees and will be ready to try to obstruct the Trump appointees. But we need to get back to the rule of law.
Mm-hmm.
And the rule of law focused on key concepts that built this great country. Equal opportunity, not equality of result. Equality of result hands over all kinds of power to government to run our lives, to shape our financial decisions, to shape our family decisions, to shape all kinds of decisions in our life. It is equality of opportunity, and to prevent what is a direct discrimination against somebody because of differences. That is where our core concept that allows freedom to flourish rests.
And on
we
that
need
note,
to restore that. I believe Trump will.
I am as optimistic as you are about Trump's judicial appointments, and thank goodness we can say that. Phil Klein, have a very Merry Christmas, and thanks for joining us.
You as well.
All right. When we come back, Tom Zawistowski from Ohio joins us. I'm Michael Patrick Leahy.
My fellow Americans, I have to tell you about my good friends at D.T. McCall and Sons. They have furniture and appliances and a lot more. They've been family owned in Middle Tennessee for over 100 years, and they're not going to rip you off. No hidden charges, no delivery charges, no charges for all of the crazy things. These are sick people at the lumber yards. These are very sick people. They charge you for cords and hoses and haul off. They charge you for all of these things. They call them hidden charges. It's the type of surprise that you don't want to see. It's like an October surprise, but it's worse. D.T. McCall and Sons, they're not going to do that. They're great people. They're going to give you a great deal. With locations in Lebanon, Carthage, Lafayette, Cookeville, and Franklin, D.T. McCall and Sons will give you the deal of your life. Check them out today or go to dtmccalls.com.
Impersonator not endorsed by Donald Trump.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
Welcome back. We welcome to our Zoom Newsmaker line our very good friend from Ohio, We the People Convention president, a Tea Party activist from a long time ago, also America First, Make America Great Again supporter, Tom Zalestowski. Welcome, Tom.
Good morning, Michael. Thanks for asking me to join you again today.
We are always delighted to have you here. And we are really looking forward to talking more with you on this. So tell us what's going on in Ohio right now.
Well, a brief update on the Senate seat that will, as we all know, J.D. Vance is the vice president-elect, and he's our U.S. senator, one of our two U.S. senators in Ohio. And so he's going to step down right before Inauguration Day, and our governor, Mike DeWine, is going to appoint his replacement. And we've talked about that on previous shows. And right now, it looks like Jane Timken has the inside track. The only thing I can report is that, as you know, yesterday was the day that everybody was counting their electors for the Electoral College. And here in Ohio, it was interesting that Jane Timken was proceeding over the counting of the electoral votes in Ohio. And I wasn't sure, I couldn't get anybody to explain to me how she got in that position to be the head of that. So that's an indication to me that she certainly got the inside track on something. So I think that's what's going to happen. But, there's a lot of time between now and January because a lot of political pressure is being put on and for other candidates as well. But it looks like she's got the inside track.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think that's probably the case. I think Jane Timken is, if I were governor of Ohio, that's not who I would pick.
Mm-hmm.
I think Sherrod Brown is going to try again.
Yeah.
And I think Sherrod Brown is a formidable candidate, and Jane Timken is a nice person.
There you go. Very, very well put by you, Mike. That's very, very, very nicely done.
Right.
She is a very nice person who hasn't won any election ever, let alone a statewide election, and that's a real concern.
Yes, indeed it is. All right. So the big news today has to do with the continuing resolution, and they're kicking the can down the road again. I don't know what your view on it is, but back in September, Speaker Johnson said, well, we're just going to do this continuing resolution to take us from October 1st until December 20th. And then December 20th, we're not going to have one of these new omnibus bills. We're not going to do that. Except the continuing resolution that they dropped last night, the 1,500 pages of it. Tom, to me, that looks pretty bad. It looks like it's filled with all sorts of Democrat pork. Your thoughts on this?
Well, you're absolutely right. And so the question for all of us who worked so hard to elect all of them is what the hell are they doing? Because, this idea that, we're going to be for all the cuts. We're going to help Musk and Vivek and Doge, after Trump's in office. But 5 weeks before that, we're just going to dump all the pork we can possibly dump. So they're hypocrites. And every one of your listeners and viewers, and we'll be encouraging our members around the nation to call their House members and say, don't pass this. The problem is that you only need 10 Republicans to go along in the House with all the Democrats to pass it. That's what'll happen. But you know what? That's okay. Make your representative vote no. Make them vote no, and make it clear to them that if they don't vote no, that we're going to have to do something about them in 2026, because we don't believe them. They're hypocrites. They're liars. They're not for cutting spending.
So
they're just not.
Did you see this little twist earlier today on the John Fredericks radio network? Victoria Sparks, who is actually, I think, a native of Ukraine, but moved here as a young person and is a member of the Freedom Caucus, Republican, represents the 5th Congressional District in Indiana. She announced, all this CR stuff is terrible. It's so bad, I am resigning all of my committee positions. I'm not going to caucus with the Republican caucus. I mean, she's going to vote for, and she was left open whether she'll vote for Speaker Johnson when the new House convenes. She said, all I'm going to do is focus on the Department of Government Efficiency. I thought that was quite interesting. Your thoughts on that kind of...
Well, I think that's the kind of courage we need. And how tone deaf do you have to be? I mean, the election wasn't 4 years ago. The election was 4 or 5 weeks ago, Michael. And so what? You think the voters weren't serious about what they wanted you to do? Do you think that a $2 trillion a year deficit makes any sense to anyone? And then you're gonna claim you're gonna meet with Elon and Vivek and talk about, well, I've got a list of things to cut, except you won't vote to cut anything. And so, Michael, I think that, listen, if these people really believed in Doge, if they really believed in what they say they are, we wouldn't need Doge. They would have done this years ago.
Yeah.
So the fact is that Donald Trump and Vivek and all those guys are going to have to do this through impoundment, through other constitutional means, because none of these elected officials are going to help, because they're all bought and paid for by the people
the majority
who
of
get
them,
the money.
See, I've got a little different take on it, asterisk, right? And to get your reaction to it. I think it may be different when Donald Trump is president. He's sort of in this, we got 33 days until he's inaugurated. We're in this purgatory, right? Where Joe Biden,
Good word.
Joe Biden doesn't exist. And the country's being run by, these anonymous Obama holdover staffer types who are all a bunch of far left knuckleheads. Yeah. But Donald Trump, he can't call people into the Oval Office. He can call people down to Mar-a-Lago, but he doesn't have any formal legal authority until the afternoon of January 20th. So you look at and I think, look, we can go, wah, wah, wah. Congress is corrupt. Well, hello.
Yeah.
That there's no news there. But my thinking on that is, they're just behaving as they always have. Mm-hmm. It is not a surprise that Mike Johnson caved, and he says, "Oh yes, I really want to cut spending, but let me cut this, sweetheart deal with all this pork with the Democrats." That's just the way most members of Congress have behaved for eons. I think the real test is going to be, they're going to pass this thing. It's awful, but they're going to pass it.
Yeah.
They don't have the institution of Congress, does not have the courage, if you will, to say no, right? And it really hasn't. Yeah. But with Donald Trump as president, I think it might be different. Your thoughts on that?
In all the years you and I have been involved with the Tea Party, we learned two really important lessons. Number one, electoral power is not in the ability to elect someone. It's in the ability to unelect someone. Mm-hmm. That's where the power comes from. Number two, we learned that politics is a game of force, not influence. So it's real simple. These people have to fear for their lives. Donald Trump,
Their
Elon
political
Musk,
lives, right?
Their political lives.
Right.
Thank you for making the clarification. Donald Trump, Elon Musk, make it clear that if you vote against this agenda, if you do not listen to the people, we are going to primary you and you're going to lose in 2026, whether you're in the House or the Senate. I've been advising our members who listen to my podcast at wethepeopleconvention.org every week. I've said, here's what you need to do. Form an exploratory committee for anyone that's a Republican in the House. Don't declare you're going to run against them. Form an exploratory committee so that you can then start getting press coverage for criticizing everything they do and hold their feet to the fire. They need to fear the people, and they don't fear the people right now, and they need to fear Donald Trump, and I think they're going to fear Elon Musk because he said
I have an
he'll
idea.
commit the money.
I have an idea for you. Let me
Okay.
run this by you, okay? So, Elon Musk has 6 jobs right now. He's a CEO of 6 companies.
Yeah.
I am going to suggest to Elon that he consider adding a 7th job. You ready?
Okay.
Speaker of the House.
Oh, wow. Wow. Holy moly.
Because
that would be interesting.
So, and he could run the House the same way he does his 6 companies. I was listening to Mark Andreessen the other day. This is not going to happen, but it's kind of fun to talk about.
Sure it is. Sure it is.
So, the Speaker of the House does not have to be a member of the House. They could
No.
they could elect Tom Zalestowski. They could elect
They
me.
should, yeah.
They could
Yeah.
elect Elon Musk. They've never done it. It is unlikely they would. But I was listening to Mark Andreessen, and what he does is, with these 6 companies, he goes to each company once a week, and he focuses that day on the most important problem facing that company. And he focuses like a laser beam.
Yes.
Look, I think pick the day.
Yeah.
Pick the
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
Pick the day of the week.
That's right. That's right.
For Elon to be the Speaker of the House.
Well, it's so sad to say that you really need something like that, but you do. I would ask everyone to go look at the Tucker Carlson interview with Jeffrey Sachs that just came out this week. We did post it at wethepeopleconvention.org in our video section. It will scare the bejesus out of you because it shows what Donald Trump and Musk and all those guys are really up against.
Yeah, that's
this
a lot.
Is unbelievable. We are in so much trouble. And Donald Trump has an incredibly difficult job to do. But it's going to take force and fortitude to do it. You got to force your way through this.
Tom, what's the over-under on how many votes Elon Musk will get for Speaker of the House?
I would think he'd get like 5, right?
He might get a few.
Roy,
I think
Roy,
we'll
or
put that
maybe
campaign
some-
together for him.
Yeah,
All right.
But
Tom,
then again, if he said he's going to primary all of them, he might get a lot of votes.
Tom, thanks for joining us today. Appreciate it.
All the best. All
hey,
the
up
best
next,
to you and your listeners.
we appreciate it. Up next, Dave Bratt, the dean at Liberty University, talking about the CR. Back after this.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
We welcome to our Newsmaker line right now our good friend, former Congressman from Virginia, currently Dean at Liberty University, Dave Bratton. Welcome, Dave.
Hey, great to be on. Thanks, Michael.
Dave, I understand you just recently went to Ukraine. Why did you go? What did you see?
Yeah, just incredible trip and education. Went with a bunch of religious leaders that Ukraine kind of wants to bring conservatives on board as well to do more funding for the war. And I'm obviously opposed to that. But, you know, you still have a heart for the Ukrainian people. They're very Christian. We met with the Ukrainian Orthodox, Catholic, Jewish, muftis, every tradition. And they're being bombed, and they're going to fight to the death for their country. So you get that. And then, you know, I told them, you know, we're using you. And they said, we know, and that's okay with us because we don't have any alternative. So they understand the role of our CIA and, you know, overturning their election in 2014. They don't have a democracy right now while the U.S. State Department and all that is saying we're pro-democracy. Well, they don't have a recently elected president, and they don't have a free press, and et cetera. And, you know, I could give you a chapter and verse on the history of that, but basically we poked the bear. John Mearsheimer said, don't poke the bear. And we did. We made them give up their nukes. He said they're defenseless. They're great people, but the USA has been poking and prodding this NATO. We promised them after the wall fell we wouldn't move 1 inch to the east. Instead, we have 14 NATO countries moving further toward Russia. And Ukraine was the last red line, and Russia said absolutely not. So, you know, I got to meet the people and see, you know, it's geopolitics, but it's also, you know, the Christian spirit over there. So it's a true tragedy, and that's where I conclude.
How long were you over there, Dave?
Full week.
A full week.
7-8 days. Yeah.
Wow, that is a long trip. And you were there earlier this month?
Yeah, just a couple weeks back.
Wow.
And, boy, I was nervy because we're, you know, the U.S. now, under our guidance, is shooting missiles into Russia. And Putin said one more time, and I'm going to hit your leadership in Kiev. And we were in Kiev, right? And so it was very problematic. And I think it's kind of ironic that Putin is holding this fire, right? We're doing everything we can to provoke him into this war.
Yeah, that is bizarre.
State Department, CIA.
Yeah, the State Department, they're bombing them. They're basically trying to provoke over the next 33 days until Trump comes in. Did your visit there change your mind about the level of support that the United States should provide to Ukraine in the war effort?
No, and it's an indictment of our long-term thinking and strategy, right? Of course, right now, you know, like if you invoke the just war theory, you know, people in the Christian community say, well, the Russians attacked them, so they have every right to fight back. Well, that's true. If you ignore how the thing started, right? And that's our State Department provoking that we wanted a war with Russia. We want to weaken Russia. There's about $3 trillion worth of rare earth minerals, et cetera, over there, oil, gas. Lindsey Graham has said, hey, there's a lot of minerals, and it's better to have their boys die than our boys die. I mean, it's almost that crass.
That is pretty
right?
crass.
It's morally corrupt, and we're fighting for all the wrong reasons, and we'd be better off. And the church doesn't understand any of this, right? They don't know any. They don't watch the War Room and your shows, and they don't understand the role of the State Department, the CIA, and the Mike Benz analysis.
Mm-hmm.
If people haven't looked up Mike Benz yet, make sure you follow him as well.
What was your take about the conditions on the ground there? What did you see physically?
Well, you know, right next to Kiev, they're taking out the energy grid slowly. Russia, they don't want to manage Ukraine, right? They just don't want us up against their border. It'd be like, you know, them putting something up on Canada in Montreal or Mexico or something, right? And so on the ground, I didn't see much in Kiev, although Russia did bomb a children's hospital 2 years ago. So we went and saw that and the impact of what one bomb can do. And it was something else. And then, there's I think 20,000 kids missing from Ukraine, kidnapped a lot by Russia. And so there's, human rights violations. And then Lavrov from Russia is on the Tucker interview talking about self-determination in Russia of religious freedom, and it's too much to bear, right? And so, one just hopes that Trump can put some pressure on Russia. And if they would only listen to their church leaders, I don't think they do. I don't think the Russian Orthodox is control anything over there, and they need to be.
Have you been invited down to Mar-a-Lago to provide a report to the resident of Mar-a-Lago?
No. They know all. Trump, I think Trump's secret sauce is he doesn't even deal with the governments. He goes and deals with the oligarchs who run the government.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's just my guess.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just, so when he comes in, he's going to say, enough of this. We're out of here, and we're going to do it right. But, and also in the meantime, BlackRock and these other U.S. firms are going to, they're buying property in Ukraine
I saw that.
While there's dead bodies around. I mean, it is just morally grotesque.
Last question for you. In talking to the Ukrainian people, did you get a sense of that they support or don't support the Zelensky regime over there?
Well, they want to keep fighting, but Zelensky, I was at a prayer meeting with all the generals in Zelensky. He was met with faint praise and faint, hand clapping, et cetera. So I think they're sick of the actor, and they know he's going to depart to a rich Dachau somewhere in the world, and that will sicken them.
Oh, you think
right,
you think that? Yeah. I've heard reports that that as soon as Trump gets in and the peace is settled, that he'll go to London or someplace like that.
Right.
You think that's probably true? Well, Dave Bratt.
Yeah, no, I think it's true.
Look, that was very brave of you to go there. I don't think I'd spend eight days in Ukraine. I like staying in our safe studios in downtown Nashville. Let me tell you that, Dave Bratt.
It was just great because you felt the true cost of war to some little extent, not like the warriors.
Dave Bratt,
our soldiers. But
Dean
Merry
with
Christmas to you guys.
Liberty University. Dave, a great friend and a great report on the ground in Ukraine. Dave, thanks for joining us, and Merry Christmas to you and your family.
Thanks, Michael. Merry Christmas.
All right. We'll be back with more after this.